Wonderful. Welcome, everyone. We're so happy to have you join us today to look at some inflation fighting tips. That's a mouthful. We're so pleased everyone is with us today. My name is Sara Croymans, and I'm an extension educator with the University of Minnesota Extension, officed out of our regional office in Morris. And with me today, I have my friend and community partner, Oleary. And she works with United Community Action Program as a family services specialist, and she's out of their Redwood Falls office. But Lori, can you share what counties you cover? Quite an area.
Our agency covers the whole southwest corner of southwest Minnesota, anywhere from 9 to 12 counties, depending on what services that are being provided. So we cover a big area. And today I'm actually broadcasting from Moorhead. I happen to be here today. So
great. I'm so happy Lori could be with us. And just a bit of trivia. Lori and I went to South Dakota State University together. So happy to have her with us today. Also, I want to introduce everyone to Rick Meyer. Rick is one of our regional support staff, and he's serving as our webinar producer today. So if you are having technical issues, definitely private message Rick and he can help you out with those. So thank you, Rick, for being with us today. If you need closed captioning, you can find a button at the bottom of your screen for that. So be sure to turn that on if that is helpful for you. All right, so we're back to that original question that we had as people were coming in. If you didn't get a chance or an opportunity, go ahead and share in the chat where you're joining from and what are you experiencing inflation or where the most right now. And we've seen a lot of folks responding with gas and groceries, and we saw electronics, propane, housing, both rent and mortgage rates. We saw listed in the chat quite a bit. So continue to feel free to add to the chat with those items. So we wanted to share just a few introductory slides here about inflation before we get into what I enjoy most is the strategies to address that. And so what is inflation? So it's the decline of purchasing power of a given currency over time. And so as currency loses value, prices rise and it buys fewer goods and services. So our dollars don't go as far. We can't buy as many groceries or as much gas with that set amount of dollars. So here we're going to go on this one. This chart shows the share of U.S. adults concerned about being able to afford certain goods and services in the face of rising prices. And so we can see the different categories. And just like all of you shared, gas and groceries are at the top of that list where people are very concerned or somewhat concerned about being able to afford those items. And this poll was from July of 2022. So a good 6, 7, 8 months ago now, but I'm guessing it would be very similar in that. But you are not alone in being concerned about those things. All right, so how does inflation work? So there's three ways that it can look like, and we're not going to get into the weeds too much with this, but an increase in the supply of money is the root cause of inflation. And though this can play out through different mechanisms in the economy, a country's money supply can be increased by the monetary authorities by printing and giving away more money, by legally devaluing the tender currency, or by loaning new money into existence as reserve account credits through the banking system by purchasing government bonds from banks on the secondary market. And so three ways that inflation can be caused. The first is that demand pull effect, and that occurs when an increase in the supply of money and credit stimulates the overall demand for goods and services to increase more rapidly than the economy's production capacity. This increases demand and leads to price increases. So that's the first one. The second one is that cost push effect. And that's a result of the increase in prices working through the production process inputs. When additions to the supply of money and credit are channeled into a commodity or other asset markets, costs for all kinds of intermediate goods rise. This is especially evident when there's a negative economic shock to the supply of key commodities. Now, the third one is called the built-in inflation, and that's related to the adaptive expectations or the idea that people expect current inflation rates to continue in the future. And as the price of goods and service rise, people may expect a continuous rise in the future at a similar rate. So as such, workers may demand more costs or wages to maintain their standard of living. Their increased wages then result in higher costs of goods and services. And this wage price spiral continues as one factor induces the other and vice versa. So three ways that can happen. So I like this chart just because it helps us look at the cost over time of some very common items, right? A stamp, postage stamp in 1980 was 16 cents. In 2020, it was 55 cents. When we look at automobiles, right, you could get a new auto for just under $7,000 in the 80s, and look at that price now in 2020. Same way with loaves of bread, gasoline, and house prices. And so this just shows the effects of inflation over time and over the years. Gonna see if I can advance my slide here, Rick. Oh, there it is. All right, I had to include this slide. So my husband grew up in South Dakota, and he gets his small town newspaper from Wilmot, South Dakota. And just a couple weeks ago, the February 23rd edition had on their page where they look at 10, 25, 50, 75 years ago. And he happened to this one happened to catch his eye. His Uncle Jim actually owned the grocery store at that time. But in 1973, right, TV dinners were 38 cents. Campbell's soup, you could get it for 15 cents. And so inflation and the increase of prices are on everyone's minds these days. So with this slide, we're just taking a look at the 12-month percentage change with the consumer price index. So we're looking at how the prices have changed over time. So with food, that 10% increase in the last 12 months. And this was as of January 2023, with energy right behind that. So, and then we've got all items, and then on the far right, all items less food and energy. So we're seeing a significant increase in the cost of items. This helps us look at the 12-month percentage change with the consumer price index. And so the gray bars that you see here back in 2008 and 2009, and then up on by 2020, that's where we had the recessions. But again, we're seeing how the prices have fluctuated and how they have increased recently. On this chart, it shows the annual inflation rate in the United States from 1990 to 2022. And we can see the last couple of years have been huge increases. And so really, when we're looking at the previous 3 decades, no year saw inflation quite like this last year. So that has been pretty significant. And I think we've all been feeling that as well. This chart shows the share of U.S. adults saying that recent price increases have caused financial hardships for them. And it's showing us this data by income level or by household income. So on the far left, we've got households with less than 48,000 in income, and we can see that they have reported greater hardships than those who have $90,000 or more in household income. Although when we look at that 90,000 income on the far right there in August of 2022, 40% of folks said that they have experienced hardships. So even those households in the higher income areas are starting to feel some of that hardship, but definitely those in the lower wage areas are disproportionately feeling those hardships. All right. And in addition, credit card rates have increased. And so people are feeling it on that end as well. And so average credit card rates are near 20% and climbing. More consumers are leaning on credit to afford increasingly expensive necessities, so the gas and the groceries, that type of thing. Total credit card debt has increased quite a bit, and we see here at 18.5% in this past year. And the average credit card debt is just under $6,000 at $5,805. And so that is increasing as well. And if a person has that average credit card interest rate of 20%, and if they were making only minimum payments on that credit card, it would take the person more than 17 years to pay off that debt, and it would cost them more than $8,000 in interest. So we know if we can keep our debt levels low, if we can have lower interest rates, if we can get things paid off quicker, that is definitely gonna make a difference. Also, one additional thing that I found is that overall, the number of new credit accounts has increased significantly. And that has really been a lot from those in Generation Z or adults ages 18 to 25. And so they are really accessing more credit and may have larger debt loads than others. And so we know when we start out in our careers, oftentimes our wages are a bit lower, and so they may have to be leaning on using debt or credit to cover those necessities. Just a few more charts here, and we're going to move into some strategies. This chart shows the share of household income going towards consumer debt, and that's at a pre-pandemic level. And so more of our income's going to paying debt, and that means there's less money for saving and some of those other things that we might want to look at. A few people mentioned housing as a major need. And so when we look at mortgage rates, they have moved up over the last several months. And so I'm looking at my notes here. As of February 16th, a 30-year fixed rate mortgage was at about 6.32%, and a 15-year fixed rate mortgage was at 5.51%. And so we can see how those have risen recently. Now, after having a chat with my mom over the weekend, I happened to mention to her we were doing this webinar, and we have 2 children that are looking at purchasing homes. And she said, oh, you need to have a little more of a historical perspective on this. And so I just added this slide to our slide deck. And so this shows us way back to 1970. And my family moved in 1980. My dad got a new job and we relocated. And my mom shared that at that time they had gotten a mortgage at 18%. And so she reminded me that 6.5% may feel really high because of the recent low rates, but keeping in mind that over years ago, it was definitely a different picture. All right, so I'm going to hand it off to Lori, who's going to help us with some of the strategies. But maybe I should pause just a moment. If anybody has any comments or thoughts about all of those charts that we just shared a little bit. And Jordan's talking about houses in the 80s were under 100,000 though. Yep, that's what Lori said to me when we were chatting earlier, for sure. Yep, different picture.
And keep in mind when we're doing this is, this next part is going to be interactive. So please pop your comments into the chat so everybody can learn from what you're saying, or we'll try to keep it kind of informal with talking about the strategies. So what we're going to do is we're going to focus these strategies and talk about some ways that we can fight inflation or some different ideas. So the first thing that we want to talk about is, what expenses do you typically cut back on in the face of inflation? So if you want to put those into the chat, we can kind of talk about a few of those ideas and then we'll go through it. Some people cut down on eating out, entertainment, buying clothes, shopping. These are all things that we're going to be talking about. Travel, going out. These are great chats. Going out for dinner, vacations, groceries, personal care, luxuries, summer camp for kids. Those are all great things. Errands. Electronics, using DoorDash, treats. Great ideas. So this gives us an idea. You guys are right on again with some of the national ideas, or some of the ideas that are in the next slide.
Yeah, so definitely folks are looking at cutting back on many of the same things that y'all had indicated.
The first thing that people cut back on in this poll was the contracts and subscriptions. Anything, I suppose, from Netflix to Hulu to those type of things. It could be subscriptions to, anything. They cut back on clothes, restaurants, vacations. Again, you guys are right in what we were seeing in the polls. Oops. So groceries. Keep in mind that when we're cutting back on groceries, Americans do waste close to 1/3 of all their food purchases. That's the equivalent of 1,250 calories a day. If consumers waste a lot of the food year round, that's about 1/3 of all the food that is purchased, or about $1,500 worth of groceries for a 4-person household each year. So, if we can cut back on those groceries that we can buy, plan our meals, use what we have, avoiding waste, stocking up on sale items, using coupons, planting a garden, just any of those things to help cut back on groceries. That helps us save money in the long run. Another thing that we're seeing, you guys are well aware of this, I'm sure, is something called shrinkflation. In economics, shrinkflation is the practice of reducing the size or the quantity of a product while the price of the product remains the same or slightly increases. In some cases, the term may indicate lowering the quality of a product or its ingredients while the price remains the same. My mom just noticed this weekend with her granola bars. She said, boy, these granola bars sure are getting small. She said, eat one anyways, but she noticed that they were getting small. And I said, yep, that's shrinkflation. You're paying the same price for less.
When I remember back in the day, my bag of M&Ms was 16 ounces. It was a pound, and now it's only 13 ounces. So, yeah, crazy.
Yeah, so this is something that's very typical. It's used by all manufacturers across the board. They disguise their higher prices. You know, again, you've got to pay attention to the product size and the price. You're probably getting less. They may keep the cereal box the same size, but put less cereal in it. Just make sure you're comparing the brands, comparing the prices, looking at the items and the sizes that they are.
When I think that's where that unit pricing really makes a difference too. We can look at what's the cost per ounce or per pound, right? That helps a little bit.
The next one that people talked about that we saw a lot of is eating out. Some strategies here to share an entree or dessert and eat an appetizer as a meal. Go out for the lunch or the early bird specials. You could use a potluck instead of eating out, rethinking your drink, the soda or alcohol or water instead. That usually saves me about a third of my meal if I drink only water. Take out containers for leftover meals, preparing the family's favorite restaurant meal at home. And Sara had an idea about a BYOB restaurants for meals with adult beverages.
Well, and one of my coworkers who lives down in Florida suggested that, and I have never heard of BYOB restaurants. I don't know, maybe someone else has, but definitely we know alcoholic beverages are more expensive at restaurants. So I thought that's intriguing. Does anybody else have other ideas related to the groceries or eating out that you use to help stretch your dollars? Go ahead and put those in the chat.
And I see that growing up that we never got anything other than water when we went out. I don't remember going out that much. And again, it was water usually. I don't remember taking bottled water along. It was always tap water. You never got, or it was water that we put in an old milk container or something.
Shannon, where did you grow up? She recalls BYOB restaurants. Oh, Groupon. Yeah. So Christine looking for some good coupons. Definitely a small town. Thanks, Shannon. Excellent. Okay, so we're going to go to the next one, and I think that's mine. Oh, no, this is yours yet, Lori, with resources.
So the next one that we're talking about, there's always resources for food, and some of these are ones that we're tasked with through community action to provide these services or provide resources and referrals for these things. The first one is the SNAP, your Supplemental Food Assistance Program, food shelves, Fair for All, free or reduced cost school meals. Hunger Solutions also has a Minnesota Food Helpline, which provides resources or referrals to a lot of these different options for you. The Minnesota Department of Health, there's also a program called NAPS, which is the Nutrition Assistance Program for seniors, where they usually get a box of food each month. They have emergency assistance programs, the WIC program, which is for the women, infants, and children. Many senior dining sites, Meals on Wheels, they're available throughout the counties in Minnesota. Ruby's Pantry is another one that's pretty prevalent, where you pay a $20 share to be able to purchase. They have it in Redwood Falls where I live, and you're able to purchase, like, for $25, you're able to purchase 3 or 4 boxes of food, totes, big totes of food that's been rescued, or maybe the manufacturer made a mistake on labeling. So that's a good deal for people who would need that large amount of food. Any other suggestions?
Well, we're seeing some comments in the chat, Lori. Jordan shared that it's not always cheaper to make things at home as opposed to buying. And the example used here was cookies. Buying a bag of chocolate chips is expensive as well, right? So do some comparing on what it might cost to bake those cookies at home compared to buying them in the store.
Another thing that I see on there too, they're talking about, I think this is in the legislature right now, the free lunches for all students in Minnesota. That's one thing that I believe is in the legislature. I don't passed yet. I believe it's something that they're working on or talking about through the legislature. So that would also be a good resource.
Well, and I know our local school has free breakfast for everyone, and I don't know if that's across the state, but my grandson gets free breakfast every day, and that's not income based.
Sarah, I'll let you talk about transportation.
Yeah, great. I'm just looking here. Diana shared that the Salvation Army provides food donations. Of course, thank you. Someone shared about churches. So places of worship oftentimes help out family members. Thank you, Shannon. Free breakfast is statewide. So being able to take advantage of that. Several of you mentioned transportation as an area where you've had a lot of challenges, right? The prices have gone up quite a bit. So these suggestions are not rocket science by any means, but it's good to revisit them and remind ourselves that we can change our behaviors a little bit to help save some dollars. So drive less, consolidate trips. In the chat earlier, someone mentioned errands. So I'm assuming you're consolidating errands, right? And thinking twice before you jump in the car. If you have an opportunity to carpool, that would be great. Finding cheap gas. So there are different apps available. Gas Buddy and Waze are a few that a colleague shared with me. I don't know if folks are familiar with other apps to do that comparison. So if you can figure out where the cheapest gas is. Paying for gas with cash, oftentimes you may get a discount in that, or join a fuel rewards program. Timing your fill-ups. So this one was interesting to me. And so I did a little looking here. So Gas Buddy released a new study analyzing the average price for a gallon of gas during each day of the week to help sort out which days you should prioritize filling up your tank. Now, I don't know how rigorous this study was, but in 30 states, Mondays were generally the best day to buy gas, so the least expensive gas price. But in Minnesota, it's not quite so straightforward. So statewide, Tuesday is the best option, Gas Buddy says. But in the Twin Cities, they say Mondays oftentimes has the lower price. So again, I don't know how scientific their survey was, but it would be interesting to watch your gas stations as you drive by and see if there's a difference day by day on which days are there. Now, if Monday or Tuesday is the least expensive days to buy, anyone have a guess on which day of the week would be the most expensive day to buy gas? Friday. Thank you, Kelly. Good job. Yes, Fridays as we're entering the weekend. So again, watch your stations, your gas stations, and see how if this holds true or not. Definitely my dad's voice rings in my head as I read the check tire pressure and lighten your loads, right? Maintain your vehicle and it's going to do better. If you have the opportunity to walk or ride a bike, of course, that's going to help you save. Now, we want you to be adding some other things in the chat here as well. Jordan, Vermilion, Minnesota has the cheapest gas ever seen. Okay, so we'll check that out.
I'm seeing some for public transportation too, that people are using public transportation.
Yes, that should have been on our list. Should have been. Use a canoe and travel the waterways if that works. Yeah. Out here in rural Minnesota, we have real limited public transportation. But if you have access to that, great. Good deal. All right, we're going to move on to the next one here. Vacations. I loved this picture here. But some ideas: seek out local events or free activities. I love spring, summer, fall in Minnesota because almost every weekend some community is having a celebration, whether it's Fiesta Days in Montevideo or Corn Capital Days in Olivia, and we could go right on down the highway and start naming off some of those celebrations with parades and different free activities. Whether you're going on day trips or longer vacations, think about the opportunity to pack snacks and beverages so you're not paying the higher prices at gas stations or airports or other places. When you're out, maybe you can eat out just once a day, maybe pack a sandwich or snacks to get by. If you are on vacation and staying at hotels, look for those that have free breakfast because that adds up pretty quickly. Travel with a group and share expenses if that's an option. Traveling at off-peak times is also an option. A new term that I learned as we were looking into this was what they call the shoulder season. I had never heard that term before, but the shoulder season. And so it is the travel period between the peak season and the off season. And so that shoulder season may give you some reduced prices as well. Look at possibly joining hotel or airline rewards programs. Plan daycations and staycations to save on gas as well. Other suggestions that folks have that they can share related to vacations. Oh, state parks. Thank you. Yes. And I'm married to a veteran, and anyone that knows or is a veteran, veterans can now get a lifetime pass for national parks. And so we're really excited about that because we're adding national parks to our list of things to do the next several years. So thank you, Jordan, for sharing that. Yep, inexpensive camping as well, right? So cutting out the hotel costs. Great ideas. Well, if you have additional ideas related to vacations, go ahead and add those to the chat. And Lori, you get to talk about utilities.
I like the Walmart pickup order that somebody said they put pickup order ahead of time and pick up at their travel destinations, or staying with family if you like your family or friends. Good ideas. Utilities are another thing that through energy or through community action programs, a lot of them have what's called energy assistance programs. So this ties into kind of, again, what we're tasked with, talking about utilities, how to keep your utilities lower. Using thermostats, adjustable thermostats that can be programmed. You can find them easier or cheaper now. You can buy programmable thermostats, ceiling fans to move the air around, turn your water heater down. This is one that I'm not real good at, is unplugging the items when not in use, even your power strips, powering down everything as much as you can. Make sure you're using off-peak rates. Some utility companies will put meters in. Using LED bulbs, changing your filters regularly, using cold water to wash your laundry, checking your lint trap to make sure that that's emptied all the time, switching to low flow shower heads, checking your cell phone cable bills for any unnecessary features. And this is something we just did my husband and I went through, and he says, "Why are we paying for this?" I said, "I don't know. We must have ordered it at one time and need to reduce some of those add-ons that aren't really necessary on our cable bill." Fix leaky faucets and toilets. Every one of us, I'm sure, in our house has a drip that we always say we're going to get to. We're going to fix it. Why does that toilet keep running? Just make a priority to try and if you need to replace a flapper in the toilet or to tighten something to keep your faucets from leaking. Caulk is a wonderful thing to help with your drafty windows and doors. If you can do that, if you can replace windows and doors to make things more energy efficient. And for low-income families, to check with your community action program or your energy assistance provider to see if they will provide some of those energy saving tips or energy saving caulking and replacements free of charge or at a low cost. I'm looking at some of the other ones. Turning off the lights behind you, opening up your curtains during the daytime. You know, those are, you know, great ways to warm up this house in the summer or in the winter time, not so much in the summer. So any other ideas, keep them coming. They're all good ideas.
Someone else also mentioned not only cleaning out the lint trap on your dryer, but cleaning the dryer vent as well, because that can really accumulate there. Air and line drying can make a difference. I remember growing up and there was nothing better than crawling into bed at night, right? When the sheets came in off the line. That was just one of the best things ever. So lots of great ideas. Lori, you did mention the community action programs have a lot of assistance or
Yep.
potential. How do folks find their local community action program?
Again, you can Google community action, and there's a list of community action programs for each county. County usually has them, or an area, a group or an area will cover those areas.
Great.
So the energy assistance program, like I said, a lot of community action programs have it, but it's monitored or it's run through the Department of Commerce. You can look through that, find that link through the Department of Commerce. You can look for telephone and internet discounts through the Public Utility Commissions in Minnesota. There's also something called an affordable connectivity program. A lot of these, if you have kids in school, you might have found out about this when they were doing a lot of e-learning, because the affordable connectivity program is an FCC benefit program that helps ensure that households can afford broadband that they need for work, school, healthcare, and more. The benefit can provide a discount of up to $40 a month toward internet service for eligible households, and up to $75 a month for households on tribal lands. So, you know, there are some income eligibility guidelines for that. If you participate in things like SNAP, Medicaid, WIC, you're automatically eligible for some of these programs. So it's worth asking your telephone provider, or you check on the FCC website and they can give you more information. Included in that is the Lifeline or the free telephone programs, the telephone assistance program or plan. You can get some free phones if you're already participating in some of the programs like SNAP. And another idea is to request budget billing from utility companies so that you're paying the same rate month after month, so you're not getting those spikes in costs throughout the year.
Lori,
yeah.
I was going to ask, Shannon wondered if some of the programs have adjusted their income guidelines due to inflation. Are you aware of that at all?
Actually, the energy assistance program, I know that they actually went back to their pre-COVID guidelines. So no, that's why energy, we're seeing a lot of requests for more energy assistance or help paying utility bills, because the bills have went up, but the assistance has went down to pre-COVID times. So yeah, that is an issue.
Great. Alicia reminds us that there's some state tax credits available to homeowners investing in energy efficient repairs, whether it be insulation, upgrading appliances and windows. So definitely ask those questions, check that out. Lori, you work at the Community Action Program. You assist with some tax sites, and so I'm assuming your software picks up on some of those, perhaps.
Yep, we can help with some of those credits. You know, it's worth checking into and utilizing some of that. I know some of the cities also have credits if you're changing to, you know, they give away light bulbs, or they'll recycle your Christmas tree bulbs if you're updating to LED, or they'll give just small discounts if you're making some of these energy assistant or wise choices to help lower some of your bills or to make things more efficient.
Yeah. Someone suggests trying to bundle phone, TV, internet. So definitely shop around. That may or may not be the case for sure. And Jennifer reminds us as well that a lot of people are barely getting by or are one bad day away from a financial crisis. And yet they don't qualify for programs because of income. And that's tough, right? Those folks that are falling between the cracks there and just aren't quite qualifying, but it'll live in paycheck to paycheck.
I hear you. That's kind of the people that we deal with in my line of work all the time. You're just barely getting by. And some of those increase in COVID dollars really helped a lot of people. And now that they went back to pre-COVID with your food stamps and some of the energy, the utility discounts, the energy assistance programs, it's putting a strain on people. I hear you. The next thing that we're going to talk about is clothing. So feel free to put in the chat if you have some ideas of where to save clothing. Again, go through your closet, your dresser, look at forgotten treasures. You know, they call it retro items. You know, I wouldn't fit into anything, but some people may. Buy fewer clothes and shoes. That's a hard one for me because I love shoes. Shop department store sales and use coupons. Again, you know, it's harder to find department stores, even a store to go shopping at that may have a variety of things. But when you find them, try to buy things that are on sale. Join retail or loyalty programs to earn rewards. If you can, swap some clothes with family and friends. The thrift store and consignment stores, I'm seeing a lot of comments on this, that people like that. The Facebook marketplace, good ideas on those. Shop for deals online. You know, the biggest thing there is if you know your size and your brand that you wear, you know, that's really good. And then making clothing repairs and alterations on your own, or finding somebody that can do it for you. And somebody's saying that many thrift stores are 50% off around holidays, or they do have sale days. So they're always good times to shop at thrift stores.
When Jamie reminds us of the Facebook marketplace as well. And so it's, you know, kind of like that online garage sale, right? So being able to swap or reuse things is great as well.
Okay.
Oh, Jordan's talking about the buy nothing groups. Jordan, can you put a little more in the chat about that? I know just a little bit about buy nothing groups, but it's where you kind of share and you put out what you have and you put a call out for what you might need. If you could put a little more information in there, that would be great, because those are gaining popularity for sure.
Yep, giving more from your own abundance. Yep, that's.
Yep, hyper local to your community. Yep. Excellent. All right, well, we're going to move on to insurance here. And oftentimes folks don't like to connect with their insurance agent or their insurance company because that typically means something bad happened. But it's important to connect with them and to be proactive as you review your coverage. And so play that what if game with your insurance agent. What if this happened? What if that happened? And that'll help you assess whether you have adequate coverage or not. Double check for policy discounts. Do they have like a multi-vehicle, or if you have your homeowners and your vehicle insurance at the same place, do you qualify for that? Our youngest is in the military and he got a military discount on his insurance and was really excited about that. Anytime you're shopping for bigger ticket items and insurance fits in that, we encourage folks to shop around for coverage. So that rule of three, similar and apples to apples, right? So get quotes for the same type of coverage. Explore different payment options. So Oftentimes, if you pay monthly, so 12 times a year, you're probably paying just a little bit more. If you were to pay quarterly or twice a year or annually, that's less paperwork for the companies, so you might get some discounts there. Use auto pay and online billing statements if that can help with some discounts. Of course, maintaining that good credit history is really good. Possibly raising your deductible to lower your premiums, but we need to be careful with that one. If you're going to raise your deductible, it's important to have money set aside so that if something does happen, you've got the dollars to cover that deductible. When we're thinking about health insurance, check out MNsure for possible coverage. And I'm seeing some other good ideas here in the chat as well. Someone's suggesting
The life insurance with the bundling that with an auto policy.
All right, good deal.
You know, that helps cut down on your auto policy. So those are good ideas.
The safe driver's discount, right? So, you know, by not having speeding tickets and that kind of thing. Also, I had a thought and I've lost it now. Oh yeah, you know, so the 55, I'm old enough now to go take that driving class, and so I need to figure out where that is so I can get perhaps my 10%, I believe. I think every company might be a little bit different, so be sure to check out those things as well.
I think you can do them online too, those classes.
Oh, that would be great. That I'll have to check that out. A community ed, yep, may have that as well. So that's something to check into. Another few ideas here related to financial services and strategies. So do you have a free checking account, or are you having to pay a monthly fee for that? If you use a bank card or a debit card, and if you are a frequent user of ATMs, make sure you know which ATMs you can use free, those that are connected with your financial institution. So you're not paying $2, $3, $5 every time you use that ATM. If you have credit cards with annual fees, consider canceling those because that just adds up. As we talked earlier, paying down debts is really important because that just costs us that added interest rate. If you're able to lock in those lower interest rates on loans, so keeping an eye on where things are going, make a spending plan or a budget. We could do, and we have in the past done whole webinars on that, but having a plan makes a huge difference, and it really helps you identify where your spending leaks are, to really think about that. So having that plan, stop spending, right? Just say I'm gonna not be buying a lot of stuff right now. I shared, and Lori talked about how at her community action program, they have a VITA site, a volunteer income tax assistance site, and that is for free tax prep. And so Lori, there's income guidelines on that as well, correct?
Yep, but you know, we make exceptions, especially in our site, for people who are in hardship situations, and even on the IRS website has a free tax prep link where you can do it yourself up to a certain income guideline, and they're charging less to submit various forms than what you might do through a paid preparer.
Great.
And they're listing some other places, TriCap, a lot of the TriCap, Prepare and Prosper up in the cities, a lot of different places do those.
Yep. Go ahead.
Somebody said they use a credit union instead of a large bank too. So that was very good if you have access to a credit union.
Yeah. Michelle cautions about canceling cards because that can hurt your credit score. And for a short period of time. But if you have a card that you're paying an annual interest rate and you don't use it very much, you can time the closing of that. If I were to be buying a house in the next few months, I probably wouldn't be closing cards because I want my score to remain where it is, but definitely take that into consideration as well. Great ideas. Great ideas. All right. Is this one mine, Lori, or is it you?
Go ahead, Sarah.
Okay, thanks, Lori. So we've addressed some of these already, but when we think about sharing, renting, or borrowing things rather than buying things, right? So can I share? I had a neighbor a few years ago who had a carpet cleaner, and I didn't have one, and I had a tiller for my garden, but she didn't have one. So we swapped those back and forth. Even sharing services. So could I do babysitting for someone, this weekend, and then they do it for us the following weekend, so we can still get out and have a cheaper night or less expensive night out. At times it might make sense to rent items that are more expensive to buy. So using the lawn tiller or the garden tiller example, it might be less expensive for me to go rent that down at the hardware store than to purchase it. The public library is one of my favorite places ever. And so they have lots of really great things. In addition to books, right? I've been in libraries where they have children's toys that you can check out. I've been at libraries where they have different cake pans, right? All the different shapes. You can get movies and videos. And I've been at a library where they had pictures you could hang on your wall, and you'd check them out for a couple months. So check your local public library. There's some great things there.
We want to look at substitutions too. If you can choose generic or store brands when you're shopping. All-purpose cleaners, vinegar, lemon juice, any of those cleaners, they're good for you, they're good for the environment, they make great cleaners. Cutting up old towels or clothes for cleaning rather than using paper towels. And then another one, games, have a family game night rather than going out for entertainment. And again, libraries are a good resource. They have audiobooks, they have different things that you might be able to use as a family. To even games, they may have games there that you can check out, or puzzles. Sell, trade, or do it yourself. That's another option for looking at some of these. Again, garage sales or yard sales, these are pretty common ideas. You can trade some items with family or friends. You can, like Sarah said, trading your talents or skills. You might be good at babysitting, but not so good at home repairs. Maybe you want to swap somebody out for those. You could make an item instead of purchasing something. And again, the public library or the internet for instructions and things you can do at home for no or little cost, especially small home repairs. You should be able to go on the internet, YouTube it, and figure out how to do it yourself for a very minimal cost. We can also find things from free. Again, here's our library again. Search out free or community family activities. We've talked about this, what they have going on in your city. Visit local parks, playgrounds, and museums that have no admittance fee. And if you live somewhere that have those, I know when we lived in the Black Hills, we would watch for those certain days that they would have free admission to Crazy Horse, or they'd have free admission to the Mammoth site. We'd be able to go on those free things because we lived in the area. Don't be afraid to ask at the school for your community education for scholarship programs. A lot of those do have scholarships. If you're just having a hard time, you don't have to shout it from the rooftop, but quietly ask somebody. And I bet you they have community education scholarships. I work at the community center too, and we frequently give those out to families who are just having a hard time. And it's pretty low key, under the table. Nobody knows about it if people just ask about it.
When I
Contact.
encourage folks, Lori, for that, not only for kids, and I think oftentimes we're much more willing to ask for discounts or scholarships for our children, but for adults as well, because we also need to get out and exercise and have that socialization. So don't be afraid to ask as an adult for those scholarships as well.
Yep, and ask your health or human services programs. And there's other things that I'm seeing some great ideas coming through the chat. They're talking about the Minnesota State Parks, libraries again. Great ideas, you guys. The next one that we're going to talk about is just planning ahead and shopping around. We want to set SMART goals. Have your goals be specific. Are they measurable? Can you achieve them? Are they realistic or relevant? And they're timed. Just an example of a SMART goal would be, I plan to set aside $100 a month for the next 8 months to replace my tires for winter. So you need to replace your tires. You want to set aside $100 a month to equal $800. And then you'll be able to replace your tires before next fall or winter. If you can wait things out with the inflation for possible large purchases, if you can, again, plan your spending carefully, especially for high cost items. Comparison shop around, use the rule of 3 to check 3 different places. Look for sales and specials. A lot of times scratch and dent items, you don't have to have the newest thing, but maybe something has a scratch on the side, especially for appliances. You can get some really good discounts if you're going to get a scratch and dent one instead of a brand new one right out of the box.
So now's the time for folks to share any additional strategies or community resources that you are aware of. And folks are thinking about fixing your own vehicles, that kind of thing. And yes, Mimi, we're going to be sharing the well-being points link here in just a minute. Rick, can you go ahead and put the evaluation link in the chat for us? That would be good. So I'm going to cover the next few slides as people can continue to put strategies and ideas in the chat. We will be doing a follow-up email and we'll include a PDF of these PowerPoint slides. We'll also include a link to this first publication on the left is from Extension on smart changes to save dollars. So a lot of the ideas that we shared. And then we also have this resources for consumer publication that I'll include a link to as well. So you can check out some of those things. So here we are. Thank you, Rick. You are so on top of it. If anybody needs a certificate of participation, we've got those. If you are a University of Minnesota employee and you want those well-being points, or if you're a spouse of an employee that's on the insurance plan, yes, we have those as well. So Rick has put the link in the chat and here it is as well, and we'll include it in the follow-up email. So in the evaluation, there is a question that asks if you want that certificate or if you want the well-being points. So just follow through and you will be able to request those. So great. We do have some other webinars that are coming up in a variety of topics. So this QR code will take you to that listing of webinars. So check those out. And then, of course, we invite folks to get social with us here at the University of Minnesota Extension. Check out our Center for Family Development. And we have a family e-newsletter as well that folks can subscribe to. And so we'll include those links or they'll be in the PowerPoint that you receive. But I just wanted to look at the chat to see if there's any final questions or strategies that folks have been using. So Jordan, what is wire cutter? You're using that for a lot of I know my husband has a wire cutter out in his toolbox, but I'm guessing that's not what you're talking about. If you can share a little bit more about that. And Michelle is giving thanks that she can work from home and save gas. I mean, isn't that amazing, right? Think about how much perhaps previously you'd been spending on gas. Shannon shared options like Sezzle and Karma that let you pay for purchases over 4 payments with no interest. Okay, so checking those out, good ideas. Great. Learning how to do fixes on your home and your car. Lori talked a bit about those. All right, well, thank you everyone for coming. We're just a minute short at 2 o'clock, so our timing was pretty good. Lori and I will hang out here for a little bit if folks have questions or comments, but we're so happy folks were able to share ideas and thoughts, strategies in the chat. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.